Good evening and welcome to Footy Furnace. Good to be back. Let's get straight into it. Brownlow medalist Jimmy Bartel is alongside me.
How are you, Tom? How was your holiday?
It was good. Yes, I was in Singapore, thanks.
Not Turkey? No, not Turkey?
No, Singapore.
Oh, okay.
Singapore. Hirdy, how are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Great.
Took Hirdy's joke.
Great. All three. No, we did it Tuesday night. Great. All three of us to be here together.
They're beautiful teeth you have, Tom.
Thank you, and they're absolutely mine as well. It's not about that. It's about the footy this weekend. And the Sunday results, well, there wasn't a lot of consequence to them, but it doesn't mean we didn't have some three good games of footy. Melbourne, too good for North Melbourne by 6 goals at the MCG. Sydney over St Kilda, that was a thriller at Marvel Stadium, Hirdy. I like the look of that game. And Port Adelaide, well, they held off West Coast, who were pretty good early on.
For a while, I thought West Coast were going to get over the line, Jimmy, and record their, second win of the year? But no, Port Adelaide too strong.
Let's have a look at Reid versus Jason Horne-Francis, because this is vision I want to show off the top today, because it rings true. So they're two of the most fiery people in the game, and they're going at each other. And let's remember Jason Horne-Francis left North Melbourne after 1 year, and then Harley Reid, who potentially is on the way out, if not at the end of this year, maybe the end of next year, go back to mummy, leave after 1 year to Horne-Francis. You love that sort of stuff, don't you?
Yeah, it's a good bit of byplay. Both are incredibly competitive customers, like most players out there. But the result was pretty quick for Jason Horne-Francis. So once the byplay was happening, he kicked 2 goals from a stoppage and actually helped Port Adelaide get up and over West Coast.
Yeah, you love to see it, and good on Horne-Francis for coming back with those 2 goals. But hopefully that doesn't get taken out of the game. There's someone who doesn't get offended by it.
No, we love that. We love that. We want more of that sort of stuff. This is the ladder as it stands at the moment, and we always go top 9 for a reason, but they're the 9 teams that can play finals, really, realistically. What takes your fancy there, Jimmy? What do you like on that ladder?
Quite a bit of it. And this is the thing I love about our competition. I know we've had discussions about, keeping interest in the game and do we need mid-season competitions. That's one of the most interesting ladders we've seen in quite some time. Look at how competitive it is. If you drop a game that you're expected to win, you'll end up outside the 8 very quickly looking in.
I think Gold Coast is safe with that extra game, but from Hawthorn down, any one of those teams can miss out, and they're all quality football teams, so it's very exciting. But you go to, I think the Swans have given themselves a tiny chance, a tiny chance. They've got a tough run, but that win today against the Saints, they've got a small chance.
The percentage of 94 is going to hurt them. If you're in the top 9, you have a look at it. Yeah. They're all pretty healthy. Even the lowest one out of that top 9 being at 108. It's still a healthy percentage, but a lot of them are at 120, even 130.
And it looks like West Coast have wrapped up that #1 pick as well. They're 3 games clear, if you can call it that, at the bottom of the ladder.
It used to be called the wooden spoon.
Yeah, the wooden spoon.
Now we're giving them a tick, are we?
Yeah, well, not quite. Well, if you want to pick one, it's a tick.
True.
The rankings that we did about 3 months ago, we've revisited them. This is almost like a time capsule. We'll go to you first, Hirdy. Let's see what you had for the top teams in the competition when we did this about 12 weeks ago and where we're at now.
Well, not a lot has changed for me. Maybe the order has changed slightly, but I think Collingwood are clearly #1, Brisbane 2nd, Geelong staying 3rd. Adelaide have really shot up. I think Adelaide's a real improver since round 5, and the Western Bulldogs, even though they lost, I think the game's coming in. I think they've still got a chance to get in there.
So you mentioned the Crows, and I think like a lot of us have had a couple of really good wins, but for you, what's stood out for you to really get them up? You had them in 4th spot there.
It's across the board, I think, the way they're playing. I mean, their attack has been great, just the way they defended and used the ball in a more conservative manner, and their back 6 is holding up really well. So that's great. And Jimmy, we see your rankings. I don't want to go through them, but does this have another page to it, or are we including all 18 teams here?
I'll re-explain it for the likes of you two who can't understand it, of course. I put them in groupings because I think we clearly have Collingwood as the premiership favourite and clear. We know Brisbane has that capability. Of course, they won the grand final by that far. But the next group I've got is their ability to play both sides of the footy really well. And you mentioned the Crows. They've tightened up their defence. We know they can score. The Cats don't bet themselves. Freo, I'm still very bullish on. I think that's why I get frustrated. And we know the Dogs on their day and the Suns, they can light you up. The only reason I've got the Hawks and the Giants is because there's some flaws in their game which can get opened up. I don't think they're out of it. I just got them a little bit below.
And I don't disagree with you. I just wonder how 9 fits into a top 5.
Yeah, well, it doesn't. And the Gold Coast Suns ahead of Hawthorn and the Giants, I really like there as well. We'll talk more about the Gold Coast Suns a little bit later on. It's a packed heat map tonight. The Essendon Football Club is in free fall. I thought at the start of the year they might go 1 step back to go 2 steps forward. And now it looks like they're going 2 or 3 steps back with all their injuries and the problems they're having off the field. You've been very hard on Brodie Grundy this year, but he's in some great form, Hirdy.
Fantastic form, and all credit to him.
Yep, and a new dawn at the Suns, as we spoke about. The word of Hird. It's a special trade word of Hird tonight.
Well, I've taken off your lead. We're going to go on a bit of a trade. We're going to go on a bit of a... It's more of a comment rather than a word, actually.
Nice.
Yeah. Let's get into the Essendon injury crisis, which has been building for several weeks, and it hit a crescendo today when the club confirmed that Nick Martin will be out for the best part of 12 months with an ACL injury. He wasn't the only injury last night. Will Setterfield also hurt himself. He's got a mid-foot sprain. He's going to see a surgeon in the next few days. But that's Nick Martin. This is a huge loss. Hirdy, not as much for this year, because this year doesn't really matter. It's a bit of a write-off now. But for 2026, he is in their top 2 or 3 most important players.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, look, he's been a very important player. Player uses the ball really well, and he's been a great introduction to the team. Here's Setterfield's injury, but for Nick Martin, that's mid-year next year at best. Yeah. So they're only going to have him for half a year next year, which, you know, next year's a very important year for the Bombers after the year they've had this year, and you'd hope they do a lot better. But this is their injury list, and if you look through it, Jimmy, look, you can't blame the ACLs or probably the Achilles or even the syndesmosis on what's going on.
So 4 ACLs is bad luck.
That is, well,
you can't do much about it. The way the game's played, collision, and you're trying to change direction. It's pretty difficult to prepare your players against an ACL. I know you can make the legs strong and all this sort of stuff, but for me, Hirdy, the ones where you want to dig down is probably Langford's injury, Parrish's injury and Reid's injury, because they're constant soft tissue injuries. There's a reoccurrence with a couple of those as well. That's what you want to get to the bottom of. Going, hang on, why have we got the same players fronting back up at the physio table with the same stuff?
And the key players, I mean, Langford's such an important player at forward. Either kicks a goal or when he gets the ball, they score. Parrish is, you know, at his best, the best and fairest player, and around the midfield wins a lot of the ball. And then Zach Reid, he's the player that they've been looking to get on the park for a long time, and top draft pick, and shows some really good forms. Having 3 players they can't get in the park for soft tissue injuries has really hurt them. So
the heat of the furnace is very much on Essendon at the moment and their injuries. The other one there was Ben Hobbs, who the club hasn't confirmed this, but he won't be playing Thursday night with a groin injury. So regardless of who's on the field, they still have to have a game style that is sustainable. And Matthew Lloyd spoke about that this morning. But last week, it was Damien Hardwick who put it on the agenda as well as the Gold Coast Suns coach.
They played a little bit differently as compared to they did. You know, normally they're low pressure, low contest. Today was high pressure and they were going forward a lot more as compared to, you know, the backwards hand, backwards kicks.
So the Bombers kick backwards more than any other team in the competition. So that is got to be a huge focus of, you look at the way Collingwood take the game forward, Brisbane take the game forward, the Giants take the game forward. So all the best sides love this because they can just defend the ground. But this has gone on and on and on at Essendon under Brad Scott that has to be addressed over the off-season.
So that's Matthew Lloyd speaking on the Sunday Footy Show this morning. Their game style, Hirdy. Yeah. Break it down for us. Why are they playing this way, even though their personnel is limited?
Yeah, well, it looks like they're playing a possession-type game, and to do that, they want to go backwards, sideways and around, and that has worked in the past. But I think what Lloyd and Dimmer are sort of pointing out is that the best teams in the competition are playing forward handball, moving the ball forward, surging the ball forward, getting the ball forward, and not letting the opposition teams set up the ground and defend. And the way Essendon are playing, and that could be a personnel reason, it could be the way Brad wants to play.
Is he protecting the players against big losses?
I think part of it is protecting from big losses. If you don't give the ball to the opposition, you're defending with the ball in hand. Protects from big losses, but that's going to be tested in the next 4 or 5 weeks up against some of the best teams.
Yeah, and it hurt them in the final 3 minutes in particular when they had the opportunity to go forward and win the game. We look at this, and I have a big issue when you have 4 players queued up behind the kicker, but you've got to also add into the fact, and I'm giving them an out here with all these new players, guys who weren't on the list a few weeks ago, they're clearly going to go safe because that keeps you in the side, because they're obviously auditioning for list spots, they're auditioning to be in the starting 22.
This one here, Jimmy.
But this is a football one, and I'm with you. I think I'm going where you're going here, Hirdy. We played enough football to know the game is a minute 2. We've got so many stupid signs on the bench that tell you that's 2 minutes to go and all those gimmicks. Surely you've got a sign to say, take the game forward and on. I don't think, as much as we love Goldie, finding Goldie on the wing is probably not the option. Now, he uses the ball well here, Goldie, I'll give him credit, but that's probably not what we're trying to do to win the game. Again, we get another debutant, early player there. He's played enough footy, just whack it up towards the top of the goal square, not boundary. It's just this safety, probably because they're all new in the side and they haven't trained together. And
that's mind-numbing, Jimmy. Like, there's 2 minutes remaining in the game. You don't have to have played AFL to know to go hard forward.
If you looked at that piece of play down the field, what Richmond do was sagging back. So there were options off the line. Don't have to go backwards to find those options. Drop into pockets of space. Use those options to go forward. If you keep going backwards, sides will then slide and then just keep pushing you back.
Yeah, I'd expect Brad Scott to show that this week as well. And if they're in the same position again, then you'd go a bit harder to win win the game. That scoreline last night was at 46-37.
A tough watch. I think it was a tough watch.
It was the worst game of the season to watch. Yeah. But if Essendon got the win, it would have been okay. Instead, they let the Tigers.
And the win justifies the means, I suppose, if you get that win. But all credit to Adem. I mean, Adem, look, you got to say, from a Richmond point of view, there were people talking, a lot of people, they weren't going to win a game at the start of the year. He's definitely exceeded what we thought Richmond were going to do.
And just quickly, a big congratulations to Nick Vlosten, 250 games, been an absolute star. And I think most people at other clubs would have loved to have a Nick Vlosten in their side. He's been a gun for Richmond. Three-time
premiership player. All right, let's move to Marvel Stadium today, where the Sydney Swans came from behind to defeat St Kilda. This was a game where St Kilda looked on top for most of the afternoon, but they couldn't get far enough ahead just to finish the Swans off. The margin was 5 points. And what it does, Hirdy, as you take us through the Lexus of Blackburn key moments, is mathematically keep the Swans in a very faint way in the hunt for finals.
Yeah, the Swans have been very good, Tom, in the last 5 or 6 weeks. First of all, Mitch Owens crumbing and snapping the first goal of the game. And at times you thought St Kilda by how far. Isaac Heaney here forcing a turnover inside 50, snapping the first quarter goal. Hugo Garcia roosting a goal from inside the centre square in the third term. Rowbottom cutting the margin 7 points early in the fourth quarter. And this is where it got really interesting. Seesawing back and forth. Max Hall, how good has Max Hall been this year? Top ranked forward in the competition at the moment for the last 6 weeks. 15 possessions, 3 goals. Will Hayward kicking a goal to put kicking a goal there, a fantastic goal. And this is the piece of play I really liked. Not just bombing away, making the St Kilda player commit, centering in and then kicking a goal that put the Sydney Swans back in front. But Jimmy, I was enthralled this last quarter, just the way the game seesawed back and forward. You see Marshall kicking the goal to put them in front, and then that was a beautiful tap by Brodie Grundy down to Errol Goulden for a goal. Again, putting the Sydney Swans back in front, and here again, Hayward cutting it off, and that was the game.
Yeah, and they kept coming, the Saints, and to their credit, they kept trying to push the game forward and just couldn't find that last kick going inside forward 50. But we're talking about the resurgence of the Swans the last 5 to 6 weeks, and off the top, you highlighted Brodie Grundy, and his form, Hirdy, and no coincidence, their clearance differential, points from clearance. And Brodie Grundy, speaking of rankings of Max Hall, Brodie Grundy is the #1 AFL rated player in the competition in this period when we're seeing the Swans hit their straps like they were like last year.
And I think, we were critical of the way Brodie was playing, probably trying to play more like a ruck rover or an on-baller than actually a ruckman. The last 6 weeks he's played like a ruckman, fantastic round the contest, winning some big clearances, and I think they're the #1 clearance team or a stoppage team for the last 6 weeks. Down to, if you've got Brodie Grundy dominating and you've got Goulden, you've got these other Heaney and these other midfielders for Sydney, it's a pretty formidable task.
The fear is it's too little too late, but they're having a crack. So,
but I just say on that too little too late, what I will say is Dean Cox has come in, he's changed a lot of things, and I think that even if they don't make it, they're going to get a lot of impetus in the next year.
I'm with you there as well. But Brodie Grundy being the #1 player in the competition since round 12 is incredible and must put him in All-Australian contention, even if he had a slow start to the year.
I think he's still behind Sherry and Max Horne.
It was pretty slow.
But if he hasn't a good next 5 weeks, if you're the #1 player in the comp for the second half of the year...
the first 12 rounds weren't exactly...
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm just saying it's a discussion.
But I think we do forget that there's still a quarter of the season to go. There's still, and people, you forget.
6 games to go.
There's 6 games to go, which is a quarter of the season to go. Yeah. He's had a good 6 weeks, the back half. It'd be interesting to look at his numbers at the end of the year compared to, Gawn and Cherry and those guys.
From the Pies.
Yep. There's a discussion in the back half of the back end of the year. St Kilda's lost 5 in a row. And speaking of rucks, this was Ross Lyons speaking to Fox Footy before the game.
Then Rowan said, look, I'm really happy to experiment with the 2 rucks and let's give him some time on ball. So try and get Rowe a bit more forward as well.
So he never says anything without some sort of meaning. That's very deliberate. Rowan is happy to experiment with 2 rucks. Is that a sign that Tom De Koning and Rowan Marshall can play alongside each other next year?
It's definitely a sign, but we're going to talk about Tom De Koning, whether he goes or he doesn't go. But Marshall and De Koning would be a bit of a luxury to have those 2 players in the team.
And Grundy was too good for Marshall today. He's been too good for everyone in recent weeks as well. This is a very nasty injury for Dan Butler, a dislocated elbow in the second quarter. Not one that you want to see if you're a bit squeamish, and he's been an important play for them as well.
Yeah, he's starting to hit his straps too for the Saints. That real dynamic player across the forward line. That's what we know him as. Gets up the ground, can really burst back inside forward 50. But that was a gross injury. It was one of those ones when you saw it happen, you went, oh, and you had to look away.
Do you know how long he's out?
No, they haven't come back yet.
Haven't come back. You ever do that? No.
I had a dislocated elbow and surgery, so You're in a brace for a good, 6 to 8 weeks, depending.
Right, so it's a year, be out the year, you reckon?
It depends. It depends how they can get it back in and how sore it is.
I guess there's no point at the moment if their season is done. Marcus Windhager, 36 disposals, showing he can play an offensive role in that one as well, albeit in a loss. Well, for the first time this season, Fremantle as a football club is our Lexus of Blackburn hottest hand for round 18. An amazing performance, really. A gutsy performance, this win over the Hawks at Optus Stadium last night, Jim. So they've won 6 of the last 7, Freo. I know they're building something, and I think we all expect them to be a finals contender, if not win a final, unless you're Rory Sloane, as we had a discussion on Tuesday night. But this was a really important victory for them at home.
Yeah, it was, against a good side. It was pretty slippery conditions as well. And much like the Saints game, they didn't have it all on their own terms, but they found, as you mentioned, the word, that maturity at three-quarter time. They adjusted some things. And I guess, we say, you go back to the coalface. And we know that with Sarong and Brayshaw and a number of others. They're not afraid to, roll the sleeves up. We even saw Brayshaw post-game, blood coming out of his head. And I'm not saying they need to go that length, but it just shows that they're willing to get down and dirty and gritty and grind out a win.
63 tackles, which is a season high for them.
Great. Yeah, it was outstanding.
The Hawks, Hirdy, what do you make of them?
Yeah, look, if you can stop the Hawks' stoppages and then you can really turn the ball over in their forward half, on their back half, you really chance to beat them because they really rely on their small forwards. They rely on their small forwards kicking goals, their medium-sized forwards kicking goals, and if you can stop that, you can really help them. If you look at the way that Fremantle really turned the ball over from the Hawks and chops their transition game, once you've done that, they don't seem to have another weapon. I think Sam Mitchell's developing a very strong team, but at the moment, their stoppage stuff is not good enough. And we watch here Freo, the way they really just turned it over. Some simple turnovers through hard work, through pressure. And when you turn the ball over and stop them kicking through you, you can score off the back of it.
Yeah, you've got to cut out that first release, and often we speak about this, Hirdy. It's that non-sexy one.
Kick,
so that kick there, or it's
you want them to kick high and a bit long.
Yeah, and even that little 15-metre pressure release, the one that sides often give up. They're not giving Hawthorn that because
if you get the dump kick going on the Hawks.
Yeah, because if you stop out that little squeeze or that little pressure valve release kick, then you force them to dump it and you can squeeze the game up.
And their forwards, they don't have a tall marking forward yet, do they? Your Gunstons and Wizard Watson.
Calcia Deal play.
But they still need good ball use. And if you can stop it in their back half, you can really stop them scoring.
I look at the Hawks at the moment, and I think at their best they're a good side. But they don't fill me with as much confidence as what they did last year. They don't look like a team that's going to win a couple of finals and go on a run. Well, is that unfair?
No, it's just that the opposition's gone to work on them. And as we've started to highlight, Hirdy and I there, is, all right, what do we do when we don't have the ball? Is just cut out everything within 15 metres and at least force them to play the longer game because, again, they just haven't got the big established forward. Chol is trying his best, Deere is trying his best, but
Mitch Lewis isn't far away from back
but the opposition's probably backing themselves more in that sort of scenario than the free-flowing game against Hawthorn.
You look at the way they played in the first 4 or 5 rounds. We always thought they were unstoppable almost at the start of the year. But as Jimmy said, sides, professional AFL teams go to work and work out how you can stop them. Again, their stoppage stuff is not the best, and if you can stop them there and then stop those little kicks, you can prevent them scoring and score off the back of it.
I thought it was curious that Caleb Sarong was tagged the week before, completely blanketed by James Jordan. Finn McGuinness started as a sub for the Hawks, and he would be the one that ordinarily would get Sarong, who had 29. So that's an interesting tactical call from Sam Mitchell.
Yeah, I think Sam really backs his own team and his own system and method, and it's worked for them a lot. And look, I do think, though, it's not a down year for Hawthorn. They've learned a lot about a lot of players and learned that they probably need 1 or 2 more to come in. And they've had some significant injuries. And Will Day is still a big injury, and he's yet to come back. Yeah,
he's back soon, and they've got a good draft hand as well. Let's move to Marvel Stadium yesterday. This was an early Saturday afternoon blockbuster. It was going to be in Ballarat, moved to Marvel Stadium, and it was worth every little bit of it. The margin in the end there was 11 points. We'll talk about the Crows, but first of all, the Dogs, Hirdy and Jimmy. They're a club that's only beaten 1 top 8 side this year. They've got, on paper, they look phenomenal. But are they any better than what they were in 2024?
Look, I think they are. I love the Dogs when they get the ball in hand. When they win the ball around stoppage, they get the ball in hand and they win it a half back, they turn it over and they can use the ball really well. I do wonder, perhaps, Jimmy, if they do sometimes need to go a bit more conservative with ball in hand. So when they do turn the ball over, it doesn't come back through them. And perhaps play... I know they've got a lot of good ball users down back, and Luke Beveridge is the coach. I think he loves having those good ball users there. But probably one more defender who's a real defender would help, because I think they've had the run of 4+ goals kicks against them. There's quite a lot of players who've kicked 4 goals against them and conceded. It's a lot, and I'd say that the ability of other teams to score against the Bulldogs would be concerning.
So that's a question I've got for you, Hirdy. As coach, How do you find that balance? Because it's a great attacking weapon for him from behind the footy, of course. Big Lob loves to come over and intercept. Bramble can get very proactive. We know Johannisen won a Norm Smith medal doing that. Of course, Bailey Williams and Bailey Dale are an incredible attacking halfbacks. So how do you still encourage them to play that way, but then get the balance right as well? Is it something further up the ground? Is it these guys? Well, like, how do you find that mix?
You want to stop injuries. Like you want to stop injuries as much as possible. When you're playing against the Crows, if they get enough entries, they'll beat you because their forward line is outstanding. So I think it's a little bit of, when they have got the ball in attacking positions, yes, attack straight through the middle or take those dangerous kicks. But occasionally, like Collingwood do, Collingwood read the game really well. They do go fast. They do rip the ball through the middle occasionally. But when they want to be more conservative, they go down the line or they keep it skinny. And I think that's part of it. And as I said before, I would play one more defensive back to prevent that scoring.
And they only travel once more, and that's this weekend against Brisbane. Other than that,
and that's why they're going to be in the finals, because they've got a really good run. And Luke's got 6 weeks to work out how he wants to go in those finals, what sort of team he wants to be.
Yeah, I think we all expect them to win a final as well. Yeah. And we did so last year, and they lost to the Hawks in that elimination final.
Because when they're on fire, they're as good a team to watch as anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Speaking of players who are good to watch, Sam Darcy's great to watch, and he's been cleared by the MRO for this incident with Jordan Butts. It's a really unusual one. It's almost like an open hand push, I guess you could call it. Maybe a little bit stronger than that. Now, Adelaide's pretty sure that's how he punctured his lung. They can't be 100% sure. He's still in hospital tonight in Melbourne for the second night in a row.
So I had two punctured lungs in my career, and one of them, the rib got broken, went through the lung and broke it. But the other one was similar to that, where a knee hit and nothing was broken. But the way it was explained to me as a player was as I was breathing out, I got hit and the lung just sort of, just the hole just burst in it because it pops sort of thing. Now, I don't know if that's what's happened, but it can happen.
Just gets in the right...
Gets in the right hit, the right time, you're breathing in or out at the right time, and it sort of pops the right word.
And he's been important too. Of course, you've been mentioning their defensive work. He's part of that back six. Geez, they defend hard. And he often, he does take the opposition's big key forward and allows the others to attack off the back of that.
And he may be in for a few more days, because what they have to do, because the lung, if you get a little hole in it, leaks into the cavity and your lung can't expand. So they've got to put a tube in here that sucks the air out so you can...
And probably drive back to Adelaide as well. It's probably not getting a plane.
I think you could fly... Yeah, I think so.
Jeremy McGovern had to drive. Anyway, that's another story altogether. The Crows list build, I don't think we've made enough of this year. We've spoken about their trades, but they've hit every single first pick they've had in the draft.
Yeah, it's been good.
They've nailed to varying degrees, all the way back to 2020 when you go through them all. And then the trade, look at the trades they've brought, the players they've brought in. Now, there's big names, Jimmy, like Jordan Dawson and Isaac Rankin. But even last year, they beat Port for Alex Neil-Bullen. You know, Ben Keys, they got off the scrap heap from the Brisbane Lions. So this is a list management team that's had a considered rebuild with a heavy focus on analytics and data, and so far, so good. Like, they are nailing it. Now, the toughest challenge is still to come, but that is good.
Yeah, well, 12 months ago, their list management recruiting team was under the pump. Yeah. So, you know, a bit of success, you go back and you look at all the ticks as well, and, yeah, you've got to give you credit to them, and they're not paying the $1.5 or the $1.6 million for a player. They've got this really good band that's making them really deep, and they can compete for a long time because we saw the age profile as well.
Yeah, and they are a destination club as well. That's why I believe they'll be more attractive to players who want to move clubs at the end of this season and going forward. All right, up next, a special free agency and trade version of the Word of Hird. Stay with us on Footy Furnace.
Yes, well, free agency and Tom De Koning is on my mind. After he was Bronx jeered on the weekend, I felt really sorry for the guy because that's terrible. But, you know, you just look at this pit, you can hear the cheering, you can actually see his body language. You can see body just sort of go, because the weight of the world seems beyond this man. It shouldn't be. He's got a great decision ahead of him. Whether he goes to St Kilda and gets paid $1.7 million, or he stays at Carlton forever, he's going to get paid. My advice to Tom is just go and play. Embrace it. Embrace the pressure. Embrace it. Whichever way you go, make the decision in your own head and then go and play football as well as you can. But it does spark my mind as into Marcus Bontempelli is the best player in the competition. You think he's what he get 1.1, 1.2?
Maybe a little bit more, yeah.
Let's say it's 1.2. De Koning's 1.7. The price of leaving a club is right there in front of you, isn't it? 500 grand to leave. It's pretty obvious. It doesn't feel right to me that Tom De Koning can get 1.7 and Marcus Bontempelli can own 1.2. Is that the system that we want, or is that just market forces?
I mentioned this to you a couple of weeks ago, Jimmy. The highest paid players in the league are often not the best players at that time. They're the ones with the most potential. Mac Andrew, what Finn Callahan was offered by St Kilda. You know, Zach Butters is a great player, but if you actually probably had a list of the top 10 players in the comp, they're the ones who will be the best in 3 or 4 years' time. That's why they're paid the most.
But is that the way the system should work?
Well, that's what the market dictates. I don't know, Jimmy, like you've sat on list management before. Like, what do you think?
No, I think you're 100% right. You're getting paid a lot on potential, and of course that window there, or when you activate, restricted and unrestricted free agency, it's that carryover period. So the length of the contract as well. There's a bit of projecting going forward, and I think there'd be some clubs who. Do you remember when Buddy signed his deal at the Swans? They're going, I can't believe he's getting
10 million over 9 years.
But by the end of it, they're going, geez, we've got Buddy for unders because you're going to do another deal. And I think Craig Kelly has mentioned this. How are we doing deals that are actually taking us past the next TV rights deal? Because we don't know how much that's going up. But I think clubs are expecting, like every other CBA negotiation, it spikes considerably. So we're already talking about a player, if they're getting 800,000, that's the old 500,000. So I think clubs are doing that with some of these deals. Okay, if we're offering them 1.2 in 6 years, is that what today's 800 is? So
yes. Should there be a loyalty thing there? Should the Bulldogs be able to pay more outside the cap?
For Marcus Bontempelli?
Like a franchisee player.
Yeah, like a franchisee player. It just doesn't feel right that it's a $500,000 difference. Anyway, labour the point. Aaron Cadman, what's he going to get paid?
That's what we're talking about. So Aaron Cadman signed a 4-year deal to stay at the Giants. It's an extension from end of 2026 to 2030. He was already contracted for next year. So my understanding of this is more than $1 million a year, which you might think, $1 million for Aaron Cadman. By 2030, that's a bargain for Aaron Cadman.
Well, you hope it's a bargain. That's
based on his trajectory. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's recency bias because he kicked 6 goals and a half yesterday, but this deal's a good one for the Giants. His manager, Julian Petrarca from Connors Sports, was up in Sydney last week. It all moved quite quickly. He was keen to stay, and he had a great game against Geelong yesterday as well, which is part of the reason the Giants were able to get the job done. So let's move to that match, Jimmy. I'm intrigued in your analysis on this game because the Giants have the wood over Geelong, and they've had the wood for some time now. The last game was a thriller. This was a ripper again yesterday. There's something about GWS against the Cats. Yeah,
they've gotten the last 4 times, and we always focus on their games, of course, down at GMHBA Stadium. And we have a look at, how do sides beat Geelong? And what we've sort of dug into a bit from the Giants, a bit with the eye test and some numbers to come up against it, is if you can get the ball through the midfield. So what those numbers are saying down there, I know they can get a bit confusing, Hirdy, is if you win the footy back in the midfield, where the ground's the biggest, if you're able to actually get the ball moving forward and quickly, and the Giants do by hand, and when the Lions play the Cats, they do it really well by foot because we know the Lions are a good kicking side, but you're taking territory really quick against the Cats. So obviously what we know about Geelong is they set up really well behind the ball, they structure, and they'll drop that extra player off, never give Geelong the spare. So this is the way you beat it. You actually win the contest, you've got to take care of the contest, and the Giants release the forward handball. So you think of Darcy Jones, it's Toby Green coming up high, it's Brent Daniels when he's playing as well. Those dynamic players who are able to spit forward to the contest, which then the spare is going from 50 metres back to 30 metres. So look at this is tempo on the game. Riccardi gets it, release forward handball, and you look at what Geelong players do. They're either running with their backs to the game.
Have a Tom Stewart. They're taking Tom Stewart out of play here, aren't they?
Yeah, so he's no longer, he's 50 metres sitting there watching the game. He's having to go, well, who am I rolling up to? Who's the next one? So you're actually forcing Geelong to make those, do I come up, do I roll back decisions, which is what defensive groups don't want. They want the play in front of you. Look at that, rolled up, so which that means someone else gets pulled apart, and Tom Green is now able to find the one coming up at him, or you can take the one over the back.
That was a classic one.
Yeah, Himmelberg, he has to go sideways. Ash, another one we're talking, pretty dynamic player. But again, there was 3 or 4 Cats players when he kicked over the top of their head.
The Himmelberg one was interesting because he was just going to bomb long. I reckon in his head he just went, no, you got a handball, and changed his mind. It's the best teams against Geelong will not go straight line. They want a handball, they want to kick going forward in short ways, go off the line a bit. You've got to take those defenders that sit behind the ball for Geelong out of play.
You can't quick kick. And especially if you're from back half the ground, back 50 in particular, you've got to use the release, whether Brisbane does it by short kick, and then they go from there. The Giants do it for that forward release handball.
It's great analysis, and I just wonder how many other clubs can follow that blueprint as well, Jimmy. It's not easy.
You've got to have the players to be able to execute that plan as well.
And the first point you made, you have to be able to win the contest. If you can't win the ball around the contest, you can't do that.
The forward line's so exciting for the Giants. They brought Jake Stringer in to be a match winner, to get himself fit. He's doing that. But Aaron Cadman as well, and Jesse Hogan and Toby Green. Riccardi's an important player, and Jones too. This is a team that can kick 100 points every week.
Yeah, they can score, and they can score heavily, but there's still the issue with the Giants. They gave up nearly 60 inside forward 50s to the Cats, so they rely on talent of either end of the ground. We know their back group and, of course, their forward group. If you want to play a high-tempo transition game against the Giants and a shootout, good luck. If you want to be a little bit stiffer with your defence and take a bit of tempo out of the game, you can find some gaps.
I love what Adam Kingsley's done with Jake Stringer. He had a hamstring early on. But I reckon they put him through a 10-week pre-season, and then time will tell in the finals whether he can get through that. But he looks lean, he looks fit, he looks ready to play, and they've got the Bombers this week. I think he would be out to prove a point.
Yeah, the Bombers after a 5-day break and travel, so that's Thursday night, that game.